Hello and welcome to the Tabletop Tactics Podcast, the show where each week we discuss a different tale, topic or tangent and hear from you, the ghouls and goblins of our community. It's Halloween! And we've got an extra special video for you today. I am the Bard, your humble host, aka James Jordan, the Ghostbuster Supreme, and I am joined by the ultimate ghoul and goblin, Chaos Lord Beard.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're in! It's Halloween!
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween! Happy Halloween to you.
Now, what is quite scary is at any point my face might implode because this is very, very cheap, very ineffective face makeup I bought from Amazon. Very, very speedy delivery. Shout out to Amazon. Unfortunately, it's so thick because I had to layer it up so much. I feel like I've had a significant amount of Botox.
Yep.
And I'm either going to stop emoting from my face, or I'm going to, it's just so you're going to cave in and pop my brain.
It's going to rip the skin off your face.
Like you just sort of see me have a nosebleed at some point.
Yeah.
You know that I am, in fact, dead.
It looks great though.
Oh, thanks.
That's good. So, you know, fashion is pain. I think someone said that once. Beauty is pain, maybe. Don't quote me on that.
Doing it for all of the
goblins.
goblins.
This is for you, the goblins. Yeah, we're doing something a little bit different today. And we're not going for our standard, just chatting about a topic. We're going to have lots of people on. And by lots of people as in our people, the same people you see all the time. But we're going to each have someone, a ghoul or goblin, tell us a very spooky story and try and spook us, the Ghostbusters and ghoul.
Yes.
That's the plan anyway.
Yes.
Should we get our first guest on?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll be back in a minute.
Oh, it's so scary.
So realistic. Oh, God.
The immortals don't come in costume. We are our own costume.
We are back. We are joined by Ms. Lawrence Baker.
That's right.
The spider himself.
Yes.
King of the ghouls.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So we're now gathered here to tell some spooky stories, is the plan. Now you have a corker. We're going to save that. We're going to keep you on tenterhooks for a little bit longer. We're going to start with another corker from Mr. Chaos Lord Beard.
So is this a true story? Happened to
true
me in
story.
real life.
This is a real life story.
I think it was in like 2012, 2013, something like that.
Very spooky year.
Yes. This is when I was living in Brighton, England, South UK.
Is this the shout out to Stenning thing that happens every episode?
No, shout out to Kemp Town, because that's specifically where I was in Brighton. I was living in a house. The house was a townhouse, very nice, quite modern sort of thing. Not really in my bag, but it was fine. Living with two other pals, and I remember the time very fondly because I managed to find a bargain TV at Richer Sounds.
Amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the prices were terrifying, terrifyingly low. And it must have been about 2012 because it was like a plasma TV and it was like 42 inches. And we were like, this is the biggest TV I've ever seen in my life.
It's a big deal back then, yeah.
They can't make TVs larger. That's
It's a big deal to me now, to be fair. A 42-inch TV.
And I think the timescale makes sense because I think I was playing Oblivion.
Oh, wow, okay.
wow.
Scrolls Oblivion. So
Okay.
I think that kind of checks out timescale-wise. On the big telly. So this is like the day after we got our big telly. And we're all having a good time. It was just me and Phil, you know Phil?
Yes, I do know Phil.
And we were watching telly, we were watching telly, we weren't playing anything, we were watching telly. It was night time. Ooh. Dark. And we were having a chat about something, and then this cat walked past in the lounge and went out the back door.
Yeah.
But we didn't own a cat.
Is this your cat?
No. And we didn't have a back door that would open because it was one of those slidey patio doors.
Okay.
So we both sort of talking and we were like, did you see that cat? And Phil was like, yeah. Where did that cat come from? And it walked past us sort of in our peripheral vision underneath the telly and out into the garden. But it was one of those like patio slidey doors. And that door didn't open, nor did the cat sort of magically do it. It just walked past us like this and then out into the garden. It was very, very strange. And we couldn't quite figure out what was going on because we both saw the same black cat, tail up, just sort of like strolling through out into the garden.
Yeah.
Well, so you're sat down watching the TV, plasma, 42 inch. Okay,
Dreamy.
That's already got your attention.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to take something physical
Yeah.
to divert
Yeah.
your attention from this spectacle.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that a cat of the four-limbed variety
Yeah.
with the appendage of the tail just walked past where? Your feet?
No, like
So sort of, like
we're
the
on
whole-
the sofa, and then you've got a floor which you can stand on, and then the telly, and it just walked.
More like in the middle of the lounge almost.
Yeah, just walked past it. And Phil said, "You see that cat?" And I was like, "Yeah." And we couldn't figure it out.
But when you see a cat, like you both don't own a
You
cat.
both saw
No,
the-
but
you
you're not
were-
like, what's this cat doing?
No, we didn't. There wasn't a cat in the house. It was a ghost cat. And this is the really crazy thing. So then a week later, I had an epiphany. I was like, maybe this is like built on like an ancient Indian burial ground or something. So I just sort of like I googled our street name,
In England.
and it turns out
Yes.
that the row of townhouses were built upon the ruin of a burnt down pub. So the ghost cat was probably either the arsonist that set the pub on fire, or it was a victim of the fire, and it lives on.
Some pubs have a pub cat.
Exactly.
Sometimes do have a pub cat.
So I think we saw the spiritual remains of the pub cat just going about its business and saying hello.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Wasn't
That's
it those-
creepy, but it's not creepy immediately.
It wasn't like the cat was like, ah!
No, exactly. It's not creepy immediately.
It
Like if
was
you see
just-
a cat, you're not alarmed
Just
by
going
a
about
cat.
its business.
It's a cat.
What I like about that as well is that kind of like you say, like you're not immediately alarmed. Cats do like to skulk about and do things. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, cool, a cat.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but we don't have a cat.
Yeah.
Nor do we have a way of the cat getting in the house.
Yeah, and a cat that's able
really
to
weird.
transcend realms. We were just like, do you see that cat? And he was like, yeah.
Yeah, I see a cat.
That was weird. That's it.
Very interesting.
that.
Did you feel uneasy about it after the fact when you sort of realised that hold on, this isn't adhering to any natural law that I would expect?
It felt completely fine. Me and Philip talked about it several times over the years, and we were both like, yeah, it's completely unexplained. I
love any story that someone can corroborate it with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because often with stuff of the supernatural,
Yeah.
you're often like, did I just lose my mind?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is there corroboration?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
spooky. I like it.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's right.
We weren't haunted again. It was a one and done haunting
I don't know
That's
why.
the only experience you've ever had?
of the supernatural.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. I don't know why, but like David Byrne from Talking Heads is just playing in my head being like, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful cat. I don't know why, but there we go. Speaking of supernatural
Yeah.
and spooky times, I believe you have a story to tell us.
I'm going to preface this.
Okay.
Okay. That I have had several experiences in my life. Okay. These are all real life experiences. That's where it gets really creepy. I don't know why these things have happened to me, but maybe there's just something about me. I'm a little mad. But I'm going to tell you the most recent story. It wasn't my first experience. My first experience was probably the most terrifying experience I had. But I'm not going to share that today. Perhaps next year, if enough of you people want to hear it, I might share it. Okay? But this was also a very unpleasant experience. And what's more important about this story is that it can be corroborated by my wife. Okay? She was with me.
I like a corroborated story.
Yeah. So that's why I'm telling this one. The first one I was by myself, solo, living my life in terror. So this was about year 1.5 into the relationship with my wife.
A spooky time.
Scary
by
times
itself.
indeed.
Already a terrifying time.
Commitment.
That's right. So this was pre-tabletop. No, it was near the beginning of Tabletop Tactics. It would have happened either just before or just after it started. I'm pretty sure it was before. Yeah, in fact, it was before. So this is going back now, okay? We're talking, what, 10 years, okay? So back then, I was working at Apple when where I knew you.
Another spooky occurrence.
That's right. That's right. In fact, I think you hadn't even started at Apple yet in where we worked in Covent Garden. You were still in shout out to Stenning, Brighton, or wherever else it is that you shout out before you came down to London. But here's the thing. Apple, as you know, was always a bit of a nightmare trying to get holiday approved, especially if it was, semi-last minute. And Rachel back then, she worked as, I'm going to omit certain names where, just for, they might not want to be mentioned, or other companies and so forth. Anyway, she worked for an education firm, all right? And it was a private education firm. They did things like tutoring and to help people with exams and all that sort of jazz. And what she did the accounts and also a bit of tutoring for them. And this particular firm was considered quite high-end. And they had, which I had never experienced before in my life. I just found the whole world bonkers. So this is an interesting part of the story unto itself. They had very affluent families. Now, I will say at this point that I came from absolutely nothing, with no affluence. So this world was so far removed from me. And they mainly tutored children for private school education to pass the exams there. And so it was just a world away from what I knew and understood. And what these very affluent families would do is on the summer holidays, they would pay, literally, they would pay for a tutor to come out, stay with them. If they didn't have room wherever they stayed, they would put them up in a hotel, okay? They'd fly them over, and every day, for 5 days of the week, they'd get the weekend to themselves. So sometimes they'd be gone for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
They would pay for the tutor to come over, and the tutor would be paid their salary to tutor the children. I think it was a 2-hour block was the average that the kids would get. And as it happened, Rachel was offered by an affluent family. Again, I'm going to omit names and all that sort of jazz.
Least they be cursed.
Yeah. To come out to beautiful Italy, and specifically Tuscany.
Not rubbish Italy, beautiful Italy.
Beautiful
Yeah,
Italy.
I mean, well, to be fair, I love all of Italy where I've been, but
Nice place.
Tuscany
Very
is
nice.
particularly stunning. Like, it's stunning. Now, what they had, again, I'm going to omit some names here, and I can't remember the name of the actual chateau, villa. It might be wise that I don't give the name, because it does have a history. It was, in magazines and so forth. It's got its own history, not a spooky history, but it's like a
Goings on.
Yeah, it's got a history. It's a big deal. Now, this place they had purchased, and it's just near Lucca. So if anyone knows Tuscany, Lucca's an incredible medieval city it's walled. The whole circumference is walled.
Oh,
You can walk.
That's very cool.
Oh my! Rachel actually had a breakdown on the last day because her favourite pizza that she's ever had. We went back to have it there, and it was closed.
Oh, not like a mental breakdown.
No, that
very
came
unfortunate.
a few days before, which is what I'm about to tell you. I think actually the breakdown was because of what happened, not the pizza. But we'll
Pizza
never
was
know
the straw
for sure.
that broke the camel's back.
That's right. So I've set the scene for you, okay? We now this is the thing. This is just offered to Rachel,
Yeah.
but the particular offer that was given was that, can you come over for 2 weeks? I only wanted a couple of weeks. Can you come over for 2 weeks, do some tutoring? We're all going to be staying up at this villa, and whilst you're doing that, it was like almost like 2 hours away from the kids as well. They had 2 little girls. Okay, I think they were both below 10, like maybe 9 or 10. I think they were doing they were tutoring for their exams to go into secondary school.
Okay.
Because it was a private school.
Almost like an
had
11
exam,
plus type thing.
Yes,
but
an entry.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Again, very far from my world of understanding. So, okay, here's the thing. They said, you can bring your partner. We'll pay for your partner to fly over.
Sweet.
It's very generous.
Live the dream.
I was like, what? So Rachel said, look, I don't know if you'll be able to get the time off, because it was like 3 or 4 weeks notice. But if you can come, they'll buy the ticket, and we've got a place to stay, and they'll hire you a car. You know, you're like, okay, amazing. So anyway, I managed to get the time off, which is great.
That in itself is a
I know, it was
it
that, I'll tell you.
4 weeks notice.
It's like they give you all this holiday, but you can never allowed to spend it.
Corporate holiday.
So here's the thing. So I got the time. I know there's been a big build-up, but I feel I need to give some context as to why we were here. So we arrive, we land. The mother's there. She picks us up. Beautiful. In the hired car, which she then hands over to us. She drives us out to past Lucca, up into the Tuscan Hills. And we're given all of this information on the way. And some of the goalposts had moved since. So initially the contract, or the basis of the contract, was that Rachel and I would stay in this villa. We didn't really have a sense of how large this place was, but we understood we would have our own room and our own bathroom. Fine. Turns out the wife of this man doesn't actually like staying in the villa. It's not her thing. I don't know why it's not her thing, but it's not her thing.
Okay.
So she was staying in her parents' flat down in Via Reggio, which is basically a beach city.
Oh, okay.
And all throughout the week, they were staying there with the girls to basically do beach days.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the weekends, they would come back up. And they had a guy, and this is not a joke. I won't say the name. They had a guy who had a particularly cliched name. Who was the housekeeper. He basically came every couple of days, checked on, did the garden, because it was a vast ground, as I'll describe in a moment, and was doing things around the house. Now, turns out...
What was the name? Was it like Groundsman von Frankenstein?
I'm sure I could... All right, his name was Mario.
Okay.
You know, he didn't look like
These
that.
are all real people. We don't expose them to curses.
Yeah, I'm sure no one will be able to
track him down.
Track him down with his based on that. But so we're told immediately that actually what's going to happen is because she needed to be there for, I think it was like 9:30 in the morning, and it was about an hour and a half drive. To get to Via Reggio from the villa. Yeah. So, and she wanted Rachel to come every morning, Monday to Friday. So instead of just staying there and doing the lessons there,
you happened to like this.
had to drive down to Via Reggio every day. Look, it was still amazing. We were really grateful. Like, oh, okay, fine, no problem. Yeah.
Villa.
Yeah, it was incredible. So as she drives in, the children weren't there at this stage. They were still at the beach, but she was there to show us around, and we met Mario and everything. Husband hadn't joined them yet. He was still at work. He was going to join a few days later. Turns out half of the house didn't have power yet. Okay. This is a big renovation job. It's a very old building.
Oh, so it's fixing it up.
Yes, and the stuff that they'd started to do was already incredible. Had this like ultra modern kitchen downstairs in the basement, but with like all of the stone brickwork. It was like. It was done. Sympathetically with the building, but it was a really great blend. They knew what they were doing. Yeah, very classy. Big wine cellar, all this stuff. This place had a well, a chapel, vast grounds. Apparently, it used to be a vineyard. Of course, it's Tuscany.
Yeah.
And a really beautiful swimming pool. But only half of the building actually had electricity. Everything else was stripped. And being worked on. So that was fine. I'm not scared by things like that. I don't really get scared by anything other than things like this. Now I come into the house and I'm like, this is stunning. It comes into view. We go through this amazing drive, and there's 2 floors, and I think it had something bonkers like 8 bedrooms.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, this is the sort of opulence that it had, like views that when you went out onto the top, the veranda of the top floor, you could see all of the old vineyard courtyard and everything. It was just stunning. So anyway, we go in. I'm like, this place is amazing. I didn't have any particular feeling or anything about it. I was like, this is just beautiful, because I love history as well.
Yeah.
She showed us around, and as I'm going through the place, I get this feeling sometimes. I don't get it all the time, it's very rare. But every time I've ever had the feeling, something happens.
Weird has happened, yeah.
That's where it... Yeah.
Quite literally a spooky premonition.
Yeah, I just felt not... I felt that there may be someone else there.
Okay.
With us.
Okay.
I didn't think anything, and the minute I got that feeling as well, I was like, oh, I don't have that feeling.
Yeah, like
That's how I was like, no, I don't want
Enjoy
this.
your holiday.
Yeah, I don't want this. So I tried to delete it from my mind.
Yeah.
This is what I tried to do. I just went, no. So we went around the house. She left. She gives us the keys. And look, we have a wonderful evening. Great wine. They've got the whole fridge stocked up, and we were very, very lucky. Anyway, I'm now going to fast forward the story a little bit. We're there for a few days. Okay, we make our trip down to Via Reggio. We do the tutoring. We make the rest of the day really good. You know, we go and drive places. We did one trip. We took down to Florence at one point, which is really beautiful. On the third day, I need to explain how we get to our room now. We come in through basically a side entrance near the basement, which then goes up through the kitchen and then up a staircase, and then we cross the main reception room, because there's actually, the main entrance has these big grand double doors. Yeah. I mean, it's almost a bit Haunted Mansion-esque, except it's not. It's beautiful. Like, it's not that sort of place. But unfortunately, the reason why we were coming in that way is we were basically using the powered bits of the house where the lights were on. So that was the safer way to come in.
Well, it probably makes sense not to be constantly open massive.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so we'd have to walk across the reception hall to then get to the next staircase, which then took us up to our room. The reception hall had no power, so you're always walking through darkness. Again, I will emphasize, I'm not scared of the dark. I don't see things in the dark when they're not there. You can put me in a black void and I'm fine. But if there's something there, I'm not fine. So third night, I'd gone downstairs to get a drink, and Rachel was upstairs in the room, and I walk across the reception hall, and to the immediate left of the reception hall there's a study, and on the right there's like a welcome room, you know, a bit like where they were told, you know, say hello and perhaps give a drink to a traveller or whatever. But this study had some books in it, and was a little library of sorts. But anyway, as I walked past, I knew there was something there standing outside the study. I had the feeling very, very strong. And I don't get these feelings. It's happened 3 times in my life. I was like, oh, there's something there. Now, I didn't want to bring myself to look over. Okay? That's how I was. And you know me, I don't get scared by things. I am not intimidated by anything other than that. So I walked more quickly to go up the stairs. I didn't say anything to Rachel. Now I need to give some context here. Rachel doesn't believe, or I should say didn't believe, in anything. Complete silence. Every time I told her these stories, just in passing, you know, previous things that had happened to me, you know, as we were getting to know each other. And she's like, oh, maybe there could be something else, but no, I just, you know, it doesn't make sense to me, you know, very scientific. And look, I'm sure many of you guys are like that out there, but until you experience something for yourself, which shakes you to your bone, that's probably how I would have felt.
This guy.
Okay? Now I do not feel that way. So I didn't say anything to her for 2 reasons. One, she wouldn't have believed me anyway, and she would think that I'm psychotic. We're still only a year and a half in, you know, the relationship
Rachel,
could
I've
be
had
over.
a premonition. Yeah.
Second, what a horrible thing to say in your beautiful villa on your holiday. You know, it's not something you want to do to break the mood. And I just was willing this to go away. I don't want this in my life now. I'm having a nice time.
No, thank you.
Didn't think anything more of it. Now, as it turned out, the next day, for whatever reason, I can't remember the reason, this is honest, the children were coming up to the house.
Okay.
I think, if I remember correctly, their mum needed to collect something from the house. It was going to be convenient to bring them up and do the lessons there that morning, sort something out, and then take them back to Via Reggio. So Rachel, which was great for us because it would mean that Rachel didn't have to drive an hour and a half, we could just do the lessons there, and then we could move on. So that morning, she did the lessons with them in the study. That's all right. It's fine. It's not a problem. Anyway, she did the lessons with them in the study. Nothing happened. I was nowhere near. I didn't like going near there. I didn't want to go near there. I actually started to avoid that area of the house.
All the other way around.
Yeah, I just didn't have a great feeling about it. Okay. So anyway, she does the lessons, and then we go off that day. Nothing's happened. Anyway, we get a call that afternoon from the mum saying, "Oh, the girls, they've left their books in the study."
They'll have to come back another time.
Yeah. And she goes, "Can you just bring it to us tomorrow?" Rachel's like, "Yeah, of course. Yeah, fine." I was less fine.
They're Satan's books now.
I was less fine with that, but didn't say anything. Okay.
Yeah.
And besides, as far as I was concerned, I'll just let Rachel go and get those books because, I really do believe as well, ignorance is bliss. Like some people just aren't tuned into those things and perhaps they don't see anything, don't feel anything, and great, good for them. I didn't want to have anything happen to experience me. Anyway, so that evening we come back, it's dark. We've been out all day, we've had a nice dinner somewhere, and we have to go up the stairs, and then we get to the reception hall, and we have to go to the study to pick up these books. Now, obviously, I walked with Rachel. It's very dark, man. There's no power.
Yeah, no power, yeah. Okay?
But there is some light coming in through the windows outside. Okay. There's these huge old windows in the study. There are the books on the table, no problem. The minute I walked into the room, I had a really bad feeling. That this is not where I want to be right now. Okay?
Yep.
And I will also preface this story by saying other experiences I've had have been during the day. So it's nothing to do with being nighttime or no power. That's nothing to do with it. She picks up the books. As she picks up the books, we turn to go, and all of a sudden, singing clear as day, was someone in the room singing a nursery rhyme.
Oh no.
Not in English.
Oh no. Oh no.
It was a girl's voice. It sounded like a younger girl.
Oh, no.
It wasn't an audio book or something we picked up. Don't try and dismiss it with some ridiculous explanation. That's not what happened. I stopped dead. Now, there were two things that went through my mind. One, immediately, I'm hearing this song. Two, am I the only one hearing this song? So when I stopped dead, I looked at Rachel, and luckily Rachel said, "Did you hear this? Are you hearing this?" And she was shocked as well. And I went, "Yes." I almost had a moment of relief that it's not just me. Okay?
Yeah, we're both going to die.
Yes, I have validation. And she goes, "What is it? What is it?" I said, I think there's someone in here, and she's trying to say something to us. I don't understand what the song was, because it was obviously Italian, I'm guessing.
Or was it Latin?
No, it wasn't anything weird. Like that. I'm pretty sure it was Italian, but I'm not the best with languages. It sounded Italian to me. And since we were in Italy, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I proceeded to take Rachel's arm, and we left very rapidly. I've never seen Rachel walk so fast. Because you don't want to run, weirdly, in those situations. There's a thing that goes, there's fear and there's terror. I wasn't terrified because I've also had experiences before, but it was a deep fear. And you almost feel like if you run in a moment like that it draws more attention to you.
Yeah.
You weirdly, even though you've clearly been spotted and something is trying to communicate with you, you don't want to draw more attention to yourself. It's a very hard thing to explain.
It must be quite primal, because it's like, you're supposed to not run from a bear or a tiger.
Yes.
You're supposed to just back away slowly. Like,
yes. Yeah.
We're cool, right?
Yeah. And so we went up to the room. Rachel said, "Should we lock the door?" And I said, I did lock the door, and I said, I'll be honest, I don't think that will do anything in this situation. But we were both shaken.
Yeah, man.
It was both.
How long did the singing last?
Well, we left with the singing happening.
So as you left, it was still happening.
Yes.
As you left the room?
Yes.
Not the villa weeks later?
No. But it did stop when we got to, we were approaching the stairs.
You could hear it getting further away as you're leaving the room?
Yeah.
Oh!
And was it quite soft singing? Or are we talking like...
It wasn't, no, it was quite soft. It was like singing a nursery rhyme, like, you know, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty. And that just made it even more creepy.
Yeah. And there's no power, so it's not like someone's called you.
No, because you know, like when a child sings a rhyme, because, you know, they're so conscious of thinking about it as well to get it right that they don't give like full oomph to it, you know, so there's this sort of broken, almost staccato sort of aspects to a child singing a nursery rhyme. It was horrible. It was horrible.
That's messed up.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. So, you know, we went upstairs, we did lock the door. Stupid, really. And nothing else happened that night. And I really do feel, for whatever reason, this little girl, I'll call her that, was over there in that study area. There was some connection there, that she wanted to be round there. I didn't really feel her anywhere else in the house. And every time that, for the rest of the holiday, that I'd walk past that area, I'd feel that there would be something over there. I never heard anything else, nor did Rachel. But it was a very creepy experience, and it was a great experience, because Rachel suddenly, it changed her perspective on things.
Yeah.
And she, in recent years, actually, she's almost tried to write it off. She's tried to go, well, I don't know, maybe it was, and then she'd like try and think. And I go, maybe it was what?
Yeah.
There wasn't anything else it could be.
No.
Wasn't anything else it could be. I mean, the outside worst thing that you could do is say that it was a prank, that the little girls that Rachel was tutoring had a prank which had motion controlled.
Yeah.
A motion controlled sensor was set up without any power, correct? Yeah. That went off immediately as we picked up the books in the room. And these are tutoring books, academic books. There's no, as I've said, there's no.
Also, like, surely Rachel would have recognised the voice if it was one of those two.
Yeah, and also it sounded younger than these girls would be. So, you know, it. Yeah.
And I'm presuming they weren't like learning Italian or anything. They would.
No. They could.
How old were the kids?
They've grown up speaking Italian. I think they were 10.
Right.
So as I said, because I think they were doing their Rachel. I mean, I have to ask Rachel. For any of you who are interested in finding some more facts, I could probably leave a comment below and I get verified with Rachel some of the more details. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they were going into secondary private school and they had to do an entry exam to get in.
It's like 10 or 11
to the private school. Yeah. Not like.
Yeah, like you say, that's an elaborate prank.
Yeah, it wasn't. Look, the thing is, it wasn't a prank. I know what it was. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I know
what
it was.
Yeah.
And I know some of you will be shocked to think, Lawrence, why do you believe in ghosts, you big baby? Look, until you've had something happen to you, all I can tell you is that's what happened to me. And I had two things that happened to me before that, which had already solidified my belief in ghosts. I don't know why they are. I don't know where they come from. I'm not attributing it to any particular religion or anything like that. I'm just telling you an experience that I had. Yeah. You too can sleep in terror this evening.
Especially when you go to Italy on holiday.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But look, you know, the funny thing is about these stories is that I don't walk around having these feelings.
No.
I'm like a normal person the vast majority of the time. It's only happened 3 instances in my life. Yeah. Technically 4 instances. Something else happened weird, but that was a weird thing, and that could have just been my own.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you know, I've been around a while now, so it's only 4 instances in my entire life.
And I think it speaks to those instances, doesn't it? That when it does happen, it can, like you say, like even now might look back on it and be like, oh, I can maybe explain it away, or I'm not really sure. But I think if it even adjusts your, oh, I don't believe in this, and then suddenly something can happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then completely changes your understanding of everything you've ever believed.
Yeah. Well, I think I know that, you know, in psychology terms, and I do believe that this can be a thing in a large group. But, you know, I'm sure someone could say, oh, it's mass hysteria, or you know, you're both experiencing the same thing because one of you felt it and you projected it on the other and they absorbed. Like, we both heard the same thing. Yeah. That's nonsense. Like, you know, we are functioning normal people. You know.
And I guess it's that whole thing of like, I know there's like sciencey people could correct me if I've got the phrase wrong, but there's an idea of like liminal space of like if it's something that feels uncomfortable, you tend to feel like the walls are closing in, or you can start to feel a bit uncomfortable. But the fact that earlier that day they had tutored there and had a whole day there, so in theory it's a known space and quite a comfortable space.
Yeah.
Suggests that you wouldn't then immediately be like, because obviously you were having the like, ooh, spooky.
Yeah.
But earlier it'd been used by other people. It's like, oh, it's a known space. It's not like we're freaked out by it instinctively. So the fact both of you were, what is that sound?
And more importantly, that Rachel, who'd never had any experience, and didn't believe anything, didn't get heebie-jeebie feelings.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I can't emphasize enough how how I'm not a paranoid heebie-jeebie person.
Not at all.
Like, done martial arts all my life, been in lots of unpleasant physical altercations as a child, unfortunately. Like, I don't get intimidated by people.
Famously, you can punch out a gene stealer. We've
right,
discussed this.
that's like, I rise to the occasion in these things. I don't mind, being around people or in a situation which might be, uncomfortable, understandably for a lot of people. It's supernatural. It's something I can't explain.
Spooky.
Well, thank you very much for your spooky tale.
Good one.
You're welcome, I think.
Well, thank you very much. Now back to the shadows with you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
With one ghoul out of the way, we present another. But who is under the mask? Ah!
Surprise!
Oh,
I'm not going to wear that for the entire time because one, you won't be able to hear me, and two, that would be terrible. I like this though. This is great.
It's fun.
It gets me into that Palpatine mood.
That was a bit like when a Scooby-Doo villain gets unmasked.
It was Chef the whole
Listen, for you
time.
meddling kids, I want to go
Meddling
away with it.
podcasters.
So we've had a spooky story from Lawrence. We've had a spooky story from you.
Yeah.
I'm saving mine.
No.
Ooh. But yes.
Is this the sequel?
This is, no, we're still. Oh yeah, a lot of people don't know the original, so we're gonna blow everyone's minds. I think we wanted to just have more of a spooky chat than a spooky story, because you've got. I overheard a little bit of a conversation we were having earlier with Lawrence. I'm like, oh, this is very intriguing. So.
Yeah, because I don't have any spooky stories. I don't have like experience. I don't have experience with the paranormal.
We've been hunting ghosts as long as I have.
But I've not had any personal encounters with the paranormal or the strange or whatever you might want to call it.
Never been possessed.
Not to my knowledge. Maybe it's a very good demon. But it's definitely something that there's too many coincidences out there for it to not be. Like I don't believe that this is it type thing. It's like with sort of aliens, things like that, where you kind of go, we can't be by ourselves. Like it's almost scientifically impossible. Now, obviously, the science aspect on paranormal, maybe not so, like that's obviously a bit of a tricky one. But I kind of refuse to believe that there isn't something, because there's too much anecdotal evidence, as well as just like weird feelings that you get yourself. Like I get deja vu a lot. And it is always in circumstances where I know that I haven't had this deja vu. Like, I know I've not been here before. But I know that it feels like it's happened. But like in terms of like ghosts and things like that, it feels like there's got to be, right?
I think there's also a really interesting thing. I've always thought this, because it ties into what Spider was just saying. Like when you have an experience, you are, because as we'll get on to later, when I had an experience, I was so beforehand, like absolutely not, no way, no. And then you have it, so you're like, I haven't done like this. I have no mechanics or explanations to explain why that happened, and I think there must be something kind of like primal. There's too many examples when it has happened. Like you think through history, you've got like so many different versions of like dragons or vampires and stuff. So what's that about?
You've got cultures from across the sea, across massive landscapes that wouldn't really have talked to each other, like outside of very, very rare trading instances. All with similar mythologies, similar religions. There's always a god of death. There's always a god of destruction. There's always like some sort of angelic being, a savior. Like there's always something that kind of interlinks them. So yeah, dragons is a great example. Werewolves are a bit of an interesting one because that is a predominantly European folklore type thing. And obviously with Eastern demons, you've got the Oni, but it's still that kind of thing. What are they? Well, they're giant things with horns. Yeah. Well, what do we have in Western mythology? It's like, well, you've got the demons in the woods. What are they? Well, they're, the classic devil is a horned being. You go, there's no humans with horns running around, so where have they gone?
Who experienced it? And I think it is interesting, to commit it to text as well at a time when writing stuff down was very tricky, to be like, people need to know about this.
Well, so there was actually a really interesting thing that I was reading a while ago on lycanthropy, and it came, well, why was I reading it? It's probably something to do with D&D. And it was, sort of modern lycanthropy as we know it, where it's that sort of, the full moon comes out and people turn into wolves, or the inner beast comes out, whatever it might be, is a relatively modern one in terms of overall folklore. So we're talking, I think it was like 1600s, 1700s, relatively new. But the actual, because lycanthropy comes from Greek, ancient Greek, like most words in modern sort of English and many other languages, there were references to wolfmen in like ancient Greek mythology. It was very sort of, sporadic. And it wasn't, they turned into a wolf during the moonlight. But then you kind of go, well, is that because they did encounter something, or is it because the werewolf myth came from that, or is it because they saw that and said that'll make a good bedtime story to scare my kids into not going into the woods? Because that's what a lot of the fairy tales were, especially like the Grimm brothers. It was, they weren't there to entertain, they were there to scare the willies out of children to not go into the woods at night.
Don't go run into the woods at night.
You'll get eaten by a witch. But then you look at, lycanthropy is related to the moon. Lunacy literally is moon madness. There's always been that kind of aspect for it.
Never really put two and two together there.
Yeah, Luna and lunacy.
I've gone moon mad.
And that is often said to be due to the tides. The change in tides can affect, because what are we, like 85% water? What does the moon do? It changes the tides. That's the theory anyway. So it's all kinds of little things like that. You then look at Eastern mythology and Eastern folklore, and there isn't really any reference to like werewolves or things like that. So things like that are kind of separate. But then dragons, they're different, but also we know that dinosaurs existed. So that probably just stems from they found dinosaur fossils.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
But what if they didn't? What if they found an actual dinosaur? Like, who knows?
Some winged being, there's a really interesting thing. I can't remember I read this. It's so annoying. It's just come to me after what you were saying. But someone was saying that, when you get that feeling when someone's like watching you, but it's kind of, you can't really explain it, or you get that there's something else is here. That kind of ties back to a very, very primal instinct that if you were like out in the woods with your spear, with a bit of rock on the end, and there's like a saber-toothed tiger stalking you, we do have a natural, something might be out there.
You're on
right?
edge.
And that is actually, there is a sixth sense of, there's a saber-toothed tiger there, I need to react to that. So that is something humans for millennia have always had. So that it is kind of spooky to be like, well, if I'm feeling that, maybe something is actually watching me.
Well, from like a psychological perspective, you've got evolutionary psychology and is things like that. So a really good modern example is, who's afraid of cars? No one. No one is afraid of cars. Snakes, spiders, big things, the unknown, all that are phobias. They are a illogical fear of something. Because how often do you encounter a lion during your day-to-day life? You respect the fact that a lion is a dangerous creature. But a phobia is, there's a spider and you lose your mind over it. You freak out over it. You cannot function whilst there is a spider around.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
You're more likely to die in a car crash than you are from a spider bite, especially in the UK, because we've got no venomous spiders.
Yeah.
Feels like they might have lots of venom.
But that's the thing.
How can we know?
No, but that's exactly what I mean. Is you things like that. No one in our modern life goes, I have a phobia. I have automobile phobia.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. People have a fear of flying because that is an unnatural thing for humans to be doing.
Yeah.
But in your day-to-day life, you don't have a phobia of cars,
Yeah.
for example.
Or taxis. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so it's little things like that. So there is an evolutionary component. There was a great thing that I saw that did the rounds on the internet. So the uncanny valley.
Yeah. Oh.
Why do we have the uncanny valley? That says that implies that at some point in our evolutionary period, there was something that looked like a human that made us go, this doesn't look like a human and makes me feel a bit weird because it looks too close to a human.
Always too close. Yeah, that whole thing. Like that. Things like that are certain like just feelings sort of all humans have. Like I mentioned it briefly. Like liminal spaces. When you're somewhere where it's just like, I don't understand why. And there's a whole thing on Reddit. I think there's a whole liminal spaces thing. If you really want to spook yourself, go check it out. And the back rooms is an example of this.
Oh, back rooms.
Just and a lot of liminal.
There's a new one.
Oh no! Stop it! But that whole thing of just like empty office blocks or stuff with no windows, or even someone's been posting loads of abandoned blockbusters as liminal spaces, and there's just something inherently disturbing about a space that should be populated and has a purpose without purpose. Yeah. And it just, there's a weird feeling it gives you that must boil down to something mechanically human that makes you go, ah!
Well, humans are tribal creatures. Yeah. We are used to having, we are social creatures, often parasocial creatures. We are used to having people around us or people either telling us what to do or providing service or providing comfort or food or society, even from like a very, very basic Neanderthal level, not even like civilization. It was still societal creatures. Yeah. You look at chimpanzees and apes, gorillas, they all have a very similar social structure. Mm-hmm. And by having this sort of ingrained sense of, especially in like predominantly Western and the majority of Eastern cultures, you're not going to get this for some of the I can't remember the name of them, but like there's the tribes that you get that are like, no one is allowed to go on those islands type thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, because also their immunity and stuff is like...
Yeah, because of like, biological immunity, they're protected by...
So it's like some of the forest, like people that like, there's also like indigenous peoples in like the Amazon peoples, and stuff that...
the Aboriginals, so there's... wouldn't apply to those, but for our kind of, as you say, we're used to seeing things built up. Yeah. There is something inherently wrong with there being no one there, because there's something that is probably in our brains that triggers us. There's no one there because it's dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, people are afraid of the dark, especially when you're young. Like, kids are afraid of the dark because they are used to seeing everything around them. Yeah. The minute that there's sort of like the dark sets in, you don't know what's coming. Like, I used to be afraid of the dark for years. Yeah. Nightmares, night terrors, all those kinds of things are very, very prevalent when you're young. And this is just, absolute hokum theory at this point. You look at adults and they are educated. We are generally educated people once we sort of hit the 10s to 11s, we start to learn stuff. And that's when you start to really learn like your sciences, your logic, things like that, for the most part. Kids don't have that. Kids are open. Kids are also unafraid until the first time that they become truly afraid of something. Yeah. So, really good example, and I'm sure you can attest to this, having a 5-year-old child. Like, don't do that, don't jump off that. Whee, off I go.
Yeah. Like, by God almighty, don't do it, you got a family.
But until he hurts himself, there's no consequence, there's no downside to doing this. Kids are exploring everything, they're very open to everything. So maybe there's part of us as a child that just kind of goes, I'm open to stuff. I'm willing to let stuff in. I can see past the masquerade, as it were. You get so many stories of kids that are like, oh, like, what? Tell me something weird that your kid told me. It's like, well, Uncle Frank says hello. And you just go, Uncle Frank died 20 years ago, and we've never mentioned him ever.
Who are you talking to? The man in the corner. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't your son try and summon a demon not too long ago?
Yeah. He may... I came downstairs, we were already awake for a bit, I'd gone up to do something, and he made like a pretty perfect circle on the floor of toys. And oh God, and I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh my God, what did he say? I can't remember now. Oh no.
Was there something about blood?
There was something about blood.
See, that to me is just like...
Inherently spooky.
The kids are inherently spooky anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because the circle wiped your memory.
Oh, that's it! He said it's the circle of blood. And he wasn't really looking at me, and it was horrible.
Was he staring at the wall this time?
He was looking directly into the centre of the circle he manifests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's things like that, you know, like with cats and dogs, you know, like they sort of sense stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's a classic story.
Like dogs barking and stuff.
Yeah, dogs barking. Like, you know, the amount of times, like, you know, I'm there with my cat. He's this big ginger lummox, wouldn't hurt a fly. He's wandering around, and then all of a sudden he's just like... Like, I came down one day and he was just staring into the corner of the house, and I was like, why do?
Yeah.
I then say, like, Herky, you're right. Turns around like, no.
Oh, I'm absolutely fine. Just staring.
What have you made? Circle of blood.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He was only about 3 at the time. What a creep.
But it is things like that where it's like, is that just because they're kind of, well, yeah, this is like, I'm just doing stuff? Like, or is it because they've, you know, been manipulated by something that we as adults aren't aware of, and then you grow out of it and you kind of tune it out? There is something, I can't remember what it is called, but it's a self-defense mechanism where you do tend to put your blinkers on for certain things.
Yeah.
You know, the vast majority of people, if they see someone or hear someone being mugged, carry on. Yeah. I'm not getting involved, that's dangerous for me. But you also tend to just block it out. You're not making a conscious decision. I'm going to ignore this person in need. You're going, it's the opposite of the cocktail effect. If you're at a party, you could be talking with 5 different people. You hear you hear your name across the room. You notice it because that's the
defense almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, who is referring to me? It's the opposite of that, where the vast majority of people, you know, how many times do you see, you know, like when you see an accident on the road?
Yeah.
Who stops?
Yeah.
You don't. You go, well, I need to get on with my day.
Yeah.
And there's something about that, I think, with the supernatural that I think probably a lot of people have. They might have encountered, as you were saying earlier, you kind of go, until it happens to you, it's like, no, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I say, I don't have anything specific, but there's definitely...
I really like what you were saying before about lots of different cultures experiencing lots of different things and seeing different things. I'm a big fan of the theory that a long time ago, lots and lots of different cultures and peoples were all eating and drinking things that would make them hallucinate.
It still happens now.
Yeah.
Like shamans are basically just on
Peyote.
ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And peyote.
It's fascinating. And I think that it's not just that they're like tripping or whatever. I honestly believe that in some way, with the things that are available to us here, you can consume them in a particular way and then access another realm. And I think that's what everyone all around the world at different times has been doing at different times, and seeing all of these things, which all seem to be kind of similar. So I love the idea that there is something accessible, but you need to get there via,
as Jim Morrison once said, of the doors, break on through to the other side.
I love it. I love it. There's I can't remember which university, but there is a university somewhere in America which is doing some research where they are getting volunteers to have whatever they're having, and they go on these trips. And because everyone's saying the same sort of thing and seeing the same sort of thing, their research is to map out this realm that these people are going to, so they can recreate it, so they can try and see, like plot out where all these people are going to.
Is this the same institute that discovered the whole cosmic jester thing?
I'm not sure about that, but a lot of people talk about the cosmic jester as like a being that they are visited by or go to visit on their experiences.
So this really, it's basically like, I'll give it a Google, it's pretty wild. But people that have had experiences or have gone on these, like, even if it's like a sweat lodge or like Tekla's peyote, have individually with no knowledge until very recently, due to the power of Reddit and the internet, been like, oh, this really weird thing that happened to me. And then this like Jester came to me, and everyone was like, that happened to me. And then like to the point of other people, that wasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's like bizarrely consistent, same description, same kind of thing.
Yeah, when people can corroborate on the same thing, it just gives it all the legitimacy, doesn't it? I love it. It's so interesting.
Yeah. I think that a lot of it comes from sort of the industrialization of the world as well, because you've obviously got a lot of spirituality that's sort of coming back into mainstream, or has been for several years, but previously, it's like same with religion, religion or spirituality. So. Even just like the East-West divide when it comes to science and spiritual medicine, there's things like in yoga, breathing techniques and postures and all that. And only now is kind of Western medicine basically going, Yeah, like obviously breathing is actually really good because it's something
de-stresses you.
Yeah, but and then like you've got all the yogis going, we've been doing that for centuries. Like, but not for there's a scientific basis, just like we were just doing it.
It's a really fascinating point there because you think like principally the idea of like obviously yoga and meditation and like regulating your breathing, you think like, oh, it's good, it de-stresses you, but it also means you're regulating the oxygenation of your blood, which is something that you really need. Yeah. So it's that weird thing where science finally catches up to like, oh, that's all like, like whatever, hocus pocus, but you catch up and say, oh, actually, science kind of backs up that as well, because you do need to breathe.
But maybe like industrialization is the filter, that's the masquerade, that's the barrier that's come down over the other realms, because again, you look at things like, your shamans, your spirit walks, all that sort of stuff. Whereas in, the industrialized, and I don't mean like the Industrial Revolution, I mean the agricultural industrial of the West.
Yeah.
So, we are talking like the medieval times where there were, we were tilling the fields and things like that. But it was also still like, you don't go into the woods. There's wolves there.
Don't eat the purple mushroom.
Yeah. Don't eat, don't eat the red mushroom with white dots on it.
It'll kill you.
So there was still that element, but it was more fear-based rather than embracing it.
Yeah.
So almost they're sort of like shutting it off. I do think that there's something out there, like the truth is out there, but there's got to be something because there's too much anecdotal, and it is anecdotal.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like without experiencing it myself, I'm still kind of on the fence.
Hedging your bets. Yeah,
I mean,
hedging your cosmic bets.
I'm paranormally agnostic. There you go.
Yeah, you go. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chef. You've been an excellent ghoul and goblin.
Head back to the spirit realm.
Head back to the spirit realm. We'll see you again very soon.
Bye.
We've pontificated the paranormal, and now we're going to hear more from our esteemed colleague, the shark.
Can't see anything.
I have a question about your costume.
Oh, do you?
Are you a shark, or have you been eaten by a shark?
I've been eaten by a shark. I'm just like peering out the shark's mouth like, hi, how's it going?
Hi. Is that why also the people hands come out of his fins?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what you're talking about.
Well played.
It's just all fins.
Yeah, it's all fin.
All fin all the time.
It seems like you've accepted your fate.
Yeah.
You seem very upbeat about the whole situation.
I mean, it's pretty cool being eaten by a shark.
I mean, if you get eaten by something.
Shark's pretty cool.
Yeah. I suppose it would be quite quick as well.
Whale. Just.
Well, yeah, a whale would.
Get stuck and you have to have a whole new chapter of your life when you're inside the belly of a shark.
Whale or shark?
Whale. Sorry, I was thinking about a gallows song.
Yeah. Shout out to Frank and Steph, my boys.
I was thinking about gallows, and then I was also thinking about Pinocchio when he's inside the whale.
Jonah gets stuck in a whale. Pinocchio.
Yeah, Pinocchio does. There's a lot of stories where people get stuck inside whales.
Tell you what, Pinocchio is arguably quite a scary film.
It's horrifying.
And they turn the kids into donkeys.
They turn the kids into donkeys.
Yeah, they get shipped off to what is essentially some kind of like creepy
it's a carnival
kid cult, and then there's a very scary whale that they get eaten by.
And then they turn them into donkeys.
Yeah.
Oh. I think the donkeys happen. I can't remember. It's been a very long time.
It's been a very long time.
Yeah, don't they like give all the kids cigars?
Yeah.
That's what turns them into donkeys.
That's what turns them into donkeys.
Messed up.
It's gross.
Yeah. It's like a bit in Dumbo when he falls in the wine.
Yeah.
Ooh. Anyway, speaking of a long time ago, you have a story for your past.
I do have a story from my past. So when I was back in primary school, even tinier than I am now.
I can't imagine it.
Same size.
I was like this big, very, very small. The school that I went to, it used to be a nunnery. It's where nuns live.
Oh, thank you.
No. You seemed very confused. And it was a really creepy, massive building, and you could tell like some of it was way older than other bits, and it had been added on to as time went along. Like the building itself never felt like it made sense. Like genuinely, the building felt like it had 3 different buildings that were then just connected by random corridors. You'd like go up a flight of stairs and have like this massive kind of balcony area, but then tiny rooms off it that didn't make sense. And I feel like it hadn't been built right. It was very creepy vibes.
So it was either like not thought through or thought through a lot.
Maybe it was to confuse. ghost.
Did you turn into a donkey?
I didn't turn into a donkey.
They gave you a cigar on your first day.
But it was a very spooky place, and there was a rumour that would always go around of if you like in certain rooms and in certain windows, if you looked, you might see one of the old nuns.
Oh.
And I don't know if you've seen the movie The Nun, but ghost nuns are quite scary. They're quite creepy. They don't look right. It's very, very, very...
I don't know why for a second I genuinely thought The Sound of Music was called The Nun, and I don't know why I thought that. I was like, that would be quite pleasant, but yes, I know what stories you're talking about.
When you're a small child, authority figures are quite scary anyway. So then an authority figure that is a ghost. It's even scarier.
The ghost authority.
Did you see a nun?
I never saw The Nun.
Okay.
I do remember a time, and I just want to say, like, the one window everyone talked about, it was, when I say, why I emphasise the building didn't make sense, was we don't know where that room was.
What room?
Like the room that the window, that if you looked in the window, you might see the nun. No one knew where that room was. As in the room that had then the window on it that you would look in.
Oh, as in, so you could see the window from the outside, but you couldn't find it from the inside.
You couldn't find the room that had the window.
No, thank you.
Right, this is what I mean. The place made no sense.
Oh, no thanks.
Like, there were loads of secret rooms, tiny rooms, like, crawl spaces inside of rooms. Like, yeah. We had like a little...
What? Where the hell? Why were you there?
I don't know.
What did you do?
Doesn't it seem like a safe place for children?
Oh, time to ship Katie off to the haunted nunnery.
Did you get a letter before you went? Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, we did have a room that was like our golden time room where we would go and play if we were good that week. And
I'm sorry, it
like
was
gold.
called what?
the golden
This is
time.
sounding worse and worse as it goes on.
It had like all the toys and stuff in it, so you would go and play there rather than going outside for like your lunch break.
Right.
It would be like, here you go, instead of a lesson, you just get to go and play.
Sounds like somewhere you go to die, golden time.
Why do you think I was so scared all
Worse
the
than
time?
Laurie's
I was
story.
there. Like, it was a very, very creepy place. And so I never saw the nun myself, but there was one time I was with a group of my friends, and we're like 6. We're not grown up. We don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And one of them is just like, I saw the nun. Because we were all trying to figure it out and be brave and like look in the window. And I was too scared to look in the window because who wants to see a ghost nun?
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. Not whilst it's golden time as well.
Yeah, you don't waste your golden time on playing with a ghost.
No, it's a golden time. But yeah, so someone saw the nun and we all ran away horrified and no one ever knew where that room was. And I still don't know because the school shut down now.
Why did it get shut down?
It wasn't a very good school.
Funding issues.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out that I don't think the school was ever open.
Ghost school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Where was it?
Do you want to know where my school was?
Yes.
It was in Kent. Do you want it more specific?
Yes.
So I grew up.
Find it on Google Maps.
I grew up in a town called Herne Bay. It was the St Philip Howard School.
Right.
It
closed in 1742.
Well, it was like in the process of closing when I was there. It's why I ended up switching schools.
Oh, wow.
Because of it.
Oh, it closed whilst you were there?
Well, it didn't close whilst I was there. They were in the process of closing it. I left before they closed because if you were there when it closed, you didn't get a choice of what school you went to. And I didn't want to go to a worse school than the creepy haunted nun school.
It was a worse school.
Maybe. I don't know. Kent's a weird place.
Yeah. Oh man, that's really spooky.
Ghost nuns from my childhood.
I think there's something to be said as well for just like creepy places in general. I remember, this isn't my spooky story, that's tackling in a minute. Hold on to your seats. This is just a separate bonus story. I was in a hotel once, super spooky. We're staying, so I think we're coming back from Cornwall, so I don't know, I was with my parents, and they were in one room. It's like kind of B&B, little old, kind of creepy building. Yeah. So we're staying in the rooms. I'm in my room, and suddenly you just like, the TV switches on in the middle of the night. I'm like, that's really annoying. Okay, fine. Walk over to the TV, tell off. Go to sleep. TV back on. Okay, fine. Walk over, turn off again. Back to sleep. Turns on the third time, I've lost my patience at this point. So I just unplug the TV and move the TV to a different part of the room. Okay, get back into bed. Turns back on again.
No.
What is happening?
I don't like unplugged
it. Yep. And I was like, well, surely it could just be like leftover electricity, whatever, fine.
Don't like that.
Again, this is before my other story, so I was like, just electricity, weird stuff, happens all the time. we left the next day, driving along. I'm sat in like the passenger, like in the back seats. My stepsister's there. My dad and my stepmother in the front. Yeah, we're driving along, and we were talking about just like spooky stories in general. And then my stepmom drops the bombshell of just like, oh, by the way, the hotel we stayed in last night was haunted, apparently. And she was like, I didn't experience, because she's like super into ghosts. And she was like, oh, I didn't really like experience anything. Oh, it's a real shame. And I was like, uh-oh. So weird happened to me. And I was like, whoa, that's so weird. But it is that thing. I don't know what it is about being in like an old creepy building.
Yeah.
It's like, why are all the ghosts in the old creepy buildings?
Well, because they're old people.
Yeah.
People have died.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I've not seen a ghost myself personally, but that was a place that just made me feel uncomfortable being in it. Like, it was the kind of place that if you needed to go to the bathroom or something, that wanted someone to come with you because you didn't want to be on your own.
Yeah,
and that's creepy. Like that vibe.
Yeah.
When you know you're in danger and you don't know why.
Yeah.
It's kind of what makes me think there's something a bit creepy going on.
Yeah, the heebie-jeebie vibe.
Creepy.
Do you believe in aliens?
Of course I believe in aliens.
Of course.
Of course.
Cool. Okay.
The universe is massive.
Do you believe in alien ghosts?
Now that is the true
big question,
conspiracy theory.
That's a big one.
What if all the ghosts, if ghosts are real and they're actually on Earth, they're actually all aliens, alien ghosts?
Well, thank you everyone. Ghouls and goblins. We're nearly through to the end of our Halloween episode.
Good, because I really want to take this off.
Yeah, I was going to say, your long vigil. Yeah, and feel free to take off the skull.
Yeah. Otherwise, all you guys are going to hear is...
Yeah. No. Yeah, you can de-hood if you want.
D-sharp.
No, because then it'll ruffle, and these guys will hear ruffles, and I like you guys.
Yeah, you don't want to ruffle their eardrums. Right, so there's one more story I have for everyone. Now, as we established through this episode, until very, very recently, I guess maybe it was like a year ago. Actually, this was the anniversary. Maybe it is. Actually, you need to check that because something really weird happened.
It was approaching, yes.
Yeah, because I remember it's been nearly a year since I've been climbing, and we talked about it climbing together.
It was November.
Yeah.
Didn't it happen November last year? So it's less than a year.
I don't know, but if it is a year, put it in the comments. I'll let you guys know. But essentially, I've spent most of my life, like spooky things happen, as I said a minute ago, but I've always been like, there's a reason for that. Like, I'm really cool. Like, science has got my back. Ghosts aren't real. Like, you know, I used to laugh at Most Haunted. I thought Derek Acorah was a very funny man. I've always had a...
He is a fraud.
Yeah.
Derek Acorah
is not real.
So do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, come on now. So I've always had a relative skepticism with it. I've always been intrigued by the paranormal. I've always been excited by it, but I've always been like, nah, like, it can't really be real. So anyway, so beginneth the story. So I'm doing a podcast with Mr. Dave Pettit. I drive over there, shout out to Dave. I had a really nice time doing a podcast, really fun. He then at the end realises, oh man, we weren't recording a big chunk of that.
We're doing a podcast right now?
We are doing a podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Full circle.
Spooky.
Full circle.
What
are the chances?
No, that's a strange coincidence.
Me,
Just when the lights start to flicker, and it's not a technical issue, it's something else.
Yeah, which would also be another full circle. So some of you bosses out there might have heard the story briefly if you stuck around to the end of a certain credits in a certain episode of our About Reports that we did recently. If you haven't, this is worth telling again. So I'm doing this podcast with our good friend Dave, friend of the channel. We're chatting. He realises halfway through, he's like, oh man, the technical difficulty wasn't recording, so we have to do a certain bit of it again. So we're doing that again, that's fine, but it does mean I then leave much later from his than planned, around about 5 to midnight.
The witching hour.
So I'm driving along on my way home, not really thinking anything of it. It's dark, it's a little bit spooky, but it's fine. I don't believe in any of this stuff. As I'm driving, you know, you got your high beams on, lots of country roads around where we are. Driving along, high beams on, there's another car approaching me. So I turn my high beams off to allow the person to pass. They turn their high beams off. We pass cars. Turn my high beams back on, and whoa! There's a woman in the woods. I'm like, what is going on? There's just a lady just stood there by the side of the road. So I immediately hit the brakes, because I'm like, well, what's going on? Weirdly, the person coming towards me didn't slow down at all, which I thought was a bit odd, but I'm like, there's a person there. So I'm slowing down. Now, because I've got my high beams on, I'm like, I'd probably turn them off, not to blind this poor person. Turn them off, and then, oh, another car's coming. What happened? So I turn them back on after this other car passes. The woman's completely gone. There's just a woman standing in the woods.
This is at midnight.
This is like really late at night. Now I'm like, immediately, bless him, probably had a bit too much to drink, wandered around in the woods, whatever, right?
But there's nowhere to have a drink round there.
Well, maybe there was. Maybe there was.
There isn't.
Don't judge people by having a cheeky woodland drink.
Admittedly, I was a bit like, there was something about it that didn't seem right. Like, I'd been driving along, turn the high beams off to, like, you know, let the person go. Turn it back on. I'm like, whoa, there's a woman there. And I'm turning them off. I mean, I didn't get out the car. I feel a little bit bad because if it was a drunk person, I probably should have.
Well, based on your thing, I was completely normal.
Yeah, exactly. Just carried on going. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going, and what I found weird is that when I look back, there's like just no one there. Like, they just, but I was like, maybe they, you know, wandered off deeper into the woods. Anyway, I get home, and I was a little bit spooked. That was strange, but I was more like, that was a shock. My heart was pounding. Poor woman in the woods.
What does she look like? What's she wearing?
We'll get onto that in a minute. So anyway, I tell Suze, my wife now, I was like, when I was driving home, A, sorry I'm late, but B, a really creepy thing happened to me. There was a woman in the woods. She was like, oh man, like, is she okay? Should we call someone? Do you think maybe she'd had like too much to drink? Why she wandering around the woods? I was like, I'm sure it's fine. Maybe she's just on her way home. There's a few, there's not much out that way, it's woods, but there are houses you could feasibly walk to, I suppose. Anyway, didn't think much of it. I come into work the next day, I'm like, guys, this really weird thing happened to me last night. There was a woman in the woods, and we were chatting to Stig, and he was like, again, same conclusion as me. Maybe she'd had too much to drink, maybe she's wandering around. Like, I hope she's okay. Everything will be fine. This is my story of the week, right? So I'm telling everyone. Not much happens to me, apparently. Then on that Saturday, this must have been the Thursday, talking to our friends in the pub. And I'm telling them the story, I'm recounting the story. And as I get to the lady in the woods bit, they both go and look at me. Like proper grab each other and go proper white and just go, that's Sally. I was like,
what?
Who is Sally? I was like, is it a local drunkard? Is it someone who's prone to walk around the woods? They're like, no, you've seen Sally. You genuinely, they're like fairly like solid, but they don't spook easy. They're like, you've seen Sally. You've seen Sally. I'm like, please elaborate. Who is Sally? They're like, Sally in the wood. I was like, not really elaborating. Yes, a woman was in the woods. Why is she Sally in the wood? They're like, it's like the ghost of Bath. And I was like, what do you mean, the ghost of Bath? And you do a little Google, and if you do the same Google I'm doing right now, just Google Sally in the wood, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, an entire Google page of stories like The Chilling Story of Sally in the Wood, Somerset's Most Haunted Road, Sally in the Wood Kills More People. What is happening, right? So it transpires, not only is Sally a common thing, because people get so spooked, she often runs out into the road and causes people to slam on the brakes of their car, spiral out of control, and die. Right? So it's quite...
This is the windy road.
So I
go back to the pub. I'm like, okay, so I'm starting to freak out a little bit here. It's like, what do you mean this is Sally in the wood? They're like, show me where it was on the map. I'm like, what do you mean show me where it was on the map? Like, where were you driving? And I'm like, why am I being interrogated? So I start zooming in to the map, and they're like, yeah, it's definitely Sally. To the point of they're texting their friends being like, just to confirm. And if you, right now, again, Google, there's a stretch of road called Sally in the Woods around here, because that is where she's most spotted. Now, so I'm like already like, this is all just a little bit too uncomfortable, but I'm like, could still be a drunk lady in the woods. But I was like, okay, what was she wearing? She wasn't wearing the standard like, ooh, like white dress and all flowy and weird. She was kind of decked out to be like relatively, like, she looked like she would be all right in the woods. She had like a big jacket on, like sort of, you could feasibly be walking home from a night out in the woods. Now, what I later discovered, I started reading into the story of Sally in the Wood. As it transpires, Sally was kidnapped in a local feud, right, from a local community that sort of lived in the woods, like they sort of lived out there. So they would have been quite rugged folk. They would have had like fairly like outdoorsy equipment. She was kidnapped, put into a tower and locked in there, and she tried to escape the tower and fell to her death, and now wanders around the woods trying to find her family. That's the story of Sally in the Woods, and apparently she kind of checks out with the person that I saw.
And there is a tower.
We can see it from the old studio.
You've been to the tower.
You've
been to the tower.
It's a creepy tower.
Yes,
The tower in itself is somewhere where birds don't nest, and there's just a big gap there's like a clearing where no plants grow.
Oh,
That's
weird.
also true.
Yeah.
Yes, there are no birds in the tower. I didn't think of it when I was there, but...
It's still to this day, it's one of those things that I was like, initially I was like, just immediately logical brain it. I was feeling the heebie-jeebies that we felt earlier.
So you have had the heebie-jeebie
That's
feeling?
the thing that made me think different. And Sue said often I would normally be like, the way I am would have been like, I would normally be like, typical me, I would have been like, I feel really bad, I probably should have stopped and given someone a lift. And she's like, stop trying to be nice to random people you find in the woods. And my little brother even said to me, he was like, imagine if you got out of the car and then she disappeared. So all kinds of things.
Turn back round and she's
in the back seat.
No.
But honestly, I came home.
She's just there.
Yeah.
No.
She's driving the car. Get in, we're going ghost hunting. It's like,
Just the window up back.
The classic scene, you look in the rear view mirror and there's someone in your back seat. Oh my
She
God.
drives off in my car and then I become Sally. But yeah, I was saying to Sue, like, she was like, the fact, because also we then spoke after we'd spoken to our friends about this. Also, to caveat, Fletch is from around here.
Yeah.
When I came in, I told everyone else the story, and you guys were like, "Oh, Fletch,
cool.
you need to hear like this story." And I started telling the story, and he went, "Sally in the Wood." Yeah. Immediately, without a beat.
But James, it also happened because remember we went climbing that evening and you were recounting it to someone else, and people across the room went, "Hey, Sally!"
Like, it's such a common thing around here that everyone's like, if you tell the story, they're like, "Oh." If you're from Bath, you probably like, "Oh, I know where this is going." But that's insane as someone who isn't from here.
Yeah.
Just like, why is everyone so chill about this?
And you hadn't heard about it before.
Hadn't heard about it at all. Had no idea what this is.
No, and I hadn't heard about it until you told me.
But the weird thing that's to go to the heebie-jeebies thing, like Suze was like, the first thing you said when you got home was like, something really creepy happened. Not, I saw this thing. It was like, she was like, you aren't normally like unnerved.
Yeah.
And she was like, you were a little bit like, I feel weird about the whole experience. And at first I put it down to like, I sort of doubted, should I have done something different? Should I have helped? But she was like, you genuinely were like, that's really spooky. And you are clearly a bit shaken up. And I do remember like, it's that thing of, as you're driving, like they're so close. They weren't that far from where you guys are, like a little bit further, maybe where the cabinets are. Like they're relatively close to the road. Like absolutely, that was a person. It's not like a tree.
Yeah.
It was. I just assumed they were hitchhiking or something. So I do slow down to make sure they're okay. And then as I'm looking back, there's just no one there. There's enough light from my high beams and my rear lights on my car. It's just empty, dark woodland. Like, there's
The person
no one
doesn't generally just disappear.
Yeah. And it wasn't like there were so many trees that you could hide yourself, or we're talking about the side of a road that's like, there's a tree line, but it's relatively sparse.
And also, why would they? Like, if they were just hanging out in the woods and walking, like, why would they just disappear?
You were just hanging out in the
Exactly
woods at 5 to midnight anyway.
Exactly.
Like, any
yourself.
normal person would go, oh, it's okay. Like, if it slowed to a stop, they'd go, it's
wait,
okay.
Don't worry about it, I'll just my way home.
You know.
Yeah.
Was she just standing there? Or
Was she?
What's she doing?
She was wandering.
No.
When I saw her, she was walking towards me. That's why I
Walking.
slowed, because I was like, is she going to go in the road?
No.
Like, and the more and more I've looked into the story and the more and more things, and I don't know, this is also part of me, like, still almost doing like what you're saying, Rachel, still part of me, the logical bit's being like, oh, but could it be? And then I find another fact and it pushes it back all the way to, no, it was really spooky. Like, the more things I find and sort of artist representations and stories about who Sally would have been, more and more I'm like, yeah, that's the person I saw. Yeah. That's definitely the person I saw.
Haunted.
And then this is also really funny. Didn't even think about this till this morning. Came in. I had car trouble yesterday, so my newer car just went kaput yesterday for no apparent reason, really. So I drove in today in the very car.
Oh, yeah.
The pennies only just dropped on that one. And maybe it's the anniversary when it happened.
Yeah.
We do think that Sally has followed you.
Well, didn't you
Ever
say that
since.
there was a follow up to it? You were doing something. I can't remember what it was. Because you came in and you said it like the following day. You were out with friends or whatever it was, and then you left a little bit later, and there was a detour.
You didn't realise you
took
were
a
on the
detour,
road.
and you turned down.
Oh, no.
And I remember you telling me.
Yeah.
You said you turned
I
down
forgot
the
about
road, and you immediately went.
So yeah, no, this was in the day as well. This was really, I forgotten about this. Thank you for reminding me. So I'm driving home from the new studio, which is a similar kind of direction I was driving, but the road I drive on, I could get home quicker, but I just avoid the road because, no thank you. But anyway, I was driving home and there was an accident on the road ahead of me, which is also now thinking about the whole Sally Wood thing. So it's like all closed. They're like, you can't come through here. So I have to take this mad detour. I don't really know where I'm going because like I can't like quickly put the sat nav on my phone. I'm just sort of going by like gut to lead me back to Bath. And it's all very windy roads, a lot of one-track roads. As I'm going through all these roads, I'm like, listen to my music, la 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 la, having a nice time. And then I turn onto a road, and it was almost like that bit in Lord of the Rings where the road goes like, I was like, I'm back. This is the road. And immediately,
Pulled back.
it was like my soul had fallen out my bum. It was like, I was just like, oh, no. And I'd never had that visceral reaction to just trees and tarmac before.
Yeah,
I was
the chill down the spine.
I was like, no, being back there really like, and that's when I think for me, the sort of synaptic nodes are like, something creepy did happen to you.
And especially because you were there at one at night time and one during the day.
Yes.
So it's not like you go, oh, I recognise this particular bit of the tree lining. You've immediately turned and gone,
It was honestly, it was like, la 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 la, and then turned, it was like, oh no. It was
cold.
Like, it's always like, my radio starts like distorting. It was just the whole thing about it.
Welcome back, Jay.
Yeah, right. It was, the whole experience was
Thank you.
just, I'm still trying in my brain to sort of compartmentalize it of like, maybe not. But I think honestly since that, I'm like, yep, I'm convinced, I'm sold.
So that's when your bad luck started. And that's when we started having a load of bad luck at the studio, right after you saw
everything
Sally
technical,
for the first
which
time.
had been working absolutely fine,
Just
failed.
random stuff started going wrong. So we do think you're haunted by
That's why I've signed up to the Ghostbusters. But yeah, that's my very creepy story.
I think you win.
I don't think anyone wins in the paranormal. We must fight them back and cast them into the shadows, apparently. But yeah, a very spooky story, and I hope you all enjoyed the spooky story.
I did.
I feel very creeped out now.
Good.
I don't want to go to sleep.
Do you know who we want to be creeped out the most? Everyone at home. We hope you've had a fun but also spooky time listening to all our various paranormal/supernatural discussion, essentially. Please do pop all your ghost stories into the comments as well, or any spooky things that have happened to you. On-demand people as well, let us know as well, because we'd love to cover more stuff maybe next year in another Halloween podcast. Would be super fun. But for now, I've been the Bard. I've been joined by Castle Beards, Ms. Lawrence Baker the Spider, Katie Fo the Jinx, and Michael Hebditch the Chef. We have been Tabletop Tactics. We wish you a very happy Halloween, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.